The Say Something podcast is brought to you by amomentwithmorris.com and blackblueprints.com. That's blackblueprints with a Z.com. I am Jermaine Morris here with the one and only Mr. Barry Accius.
Yes, sir.
We are bringing you the newest episode of the Say Something podcast.
Say something, say something, say something.
That's right. Say Something, Jermaine Morris and Barry Accius, where we bring you everything that's going on in the life, in the traffic out here in these streets.
In these cold streets. Yeah. Better get your jacket on.
Yep. Love songs for the cuffing season.
No doubt.
We're bringing you episode number 91.
Booyah!
91. And as always, we all like to celebrate life, celebration of life, highlight certain individuals who've done something for the culture, done something, put their stamp, put their mark, just have been significant that I think that it's important that we show a little attention to.
A moment of Black excellence with Jermaine Morris.
Now, this person's still with us, but and has been with us for a while.
Yes, good.
Has been with us for a while.
I love the live ones.
And so why it's important is for what this individual has lived through. So when we talk about perseverance and we talk about, a lot of us get caught up in our day-to-day life and we think that this is the end of the world, or we think that the situation that we're in right now is just it. This person lived through something horrific and something that should have shook the nation, but didn't. And they're really on a campaign to really make it known and really make a mark about it right now. This individual went through the ordeal that happened May 31st to June 1st in 1921. I said long in the tooth, where 35 city block business district was burned to the ground, where the numbers of over 300 documented were killed. But recently, it looks like an apparent mass grave was found and discovered that there may be even more unaccounted for bodies. That stems from a situation where allegedly a young Black man at the age of 19 named Dick Rowland allegedly assaulted a white woman, 17-year-old, in an elevator, which then came back to be found untrue and the charges were dropped. This then sparked a horrific ordeal, which took a prominent Black community with over 300 Black businesses that were all burned to the ground, that people's homes were looted and then burned to the ground. And anyone who resisted and didn't just willfully give up all of their possessions and their valuables was set to be executed by the folks of the neighboring town. This with the complicit behavior of the police department and even the Oklahoma National Guard. And so this individual is involved now getting together with some attorneys to put a lawsuit together against the state and against the government for allowing this atrocity to happen in the first place, to being complicit with what went on, and for there never being any recovery for the people that were there, for the families, for all the property, for all the valuables that were lost. This individual is 105 years old.
Whoa. Yikes.
And so we talk about things that have happened and we say so long ago. And we say things like, well, there's nobody that's still alive that when that happened. Well, there is. And we're talking about the area that we refer to now is Black Wall Street, the part of Tulsa. So shout out one time to this person because they've been going through so much. They said they never let it go. Still having issues, still dealing with trauma, still dealing with the pain, and still feeling like there's never been any type of resolution or true acknowledgement to make them and the people affected whole. So this moment dedicated to Leslie Benningfield Randall, 105 years old, fighting for the truth, fighting for resolution, fighting for the folks that was lost and the families that were affected.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we always talk. Everybody likes to say it was that long ago, and it was that long. This person lived through it and is still here and still lives through those atrocities every day.
Still building, still grinding.
Yeah, yeah. And so we talk about the 60s. We talk about dogs getting sick on folks in the 60s and stuff happened in the 50s and the 40s. This happened 1921.
Yeah.
And this person, all those years later, still remembers the houses being burned down, the people screaming, the gunshots going off, watching everything that they knew. The only black-owned building that was left standing was the Vernon AME Church. So out of all the buildings, all the stuff that was going on, the only black-owned building that was still left standing was one church. And to just imagine to live in your life, your neighborhood, your community, where your mom, where your dad works, where your cousins live, and just walking out and it looking like World War III, looked like Hiroshima after the bomb was dropped, just everything gone, people dead, everything you knew just wiped away. And so, I think it's important to throw energy and support to that lawsuit that they're pushing.
Yes, sir.
And what it looks like in its entirety. And then remember that the fight continues.
It does.
Folks was talking about now, we last time we left you, we wasn't sure who was going to pull it out.
Man.
There was Sleepy Joe or
Dementia Joe, man. You say Sleepy, I say Dementia Joe, man.
Weekend at Bernie's.
And here we are.
The 46th president of these here United States.
Young Dimension Joe Biden. Brother, let's celebrate. And Miss Harris, the queen of the lockup. Yes.
Yeah.
We are here. Young Donald, a.k.a. the Mango Man, a.k.a. Mr. 45, a.k.a. the P grabber. He's not too happy. We're here.
Fighting it.
He's fighting it heavy. Let's get to this right. The craziest part about this whole thing, right? The reaction to the loss. And I would also like to talk about the non-responsive reaction to the point where folks remember for the last few days was like boarding up their spots because they thought it was going to be
something was going to pop off.
Yeah, it was going to be another summertime rendition when you had the righteous uprising with George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. And mind you, those were the focal points, but this was build up that was just exploding on our streets this summertime. Yeah. And it didn't pop like that. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, there was a few moments, I heard there was a stabbing in DC. There was something that happened in Sac of the Capitol. But as far as destruction and far as like this idea of Armageddon and this idea of looting and rioting, folks got prepared, but it didn't happen. And it speaks to maybe it does happen when all of the Trump supporters who are in this Trumpism, they start to realize like it really truly is over.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, I guess because he's not conceded yet and he hasn't left, or
he's going to fight it for 70 days. He's fighting this all the way to the end.
He doesn't have to leave now, but he has to start preparing to leave. But I guess when he actually says, I'm done, I guess the Proud Boys and the rest of these, individuals will do whatever the hell they think they need to do. But I don't think that it moved in the way that folks thought. They predicted it to be just chaos. Either or, right? And it didn't happen. And that speaks to, I feel, the level of fear and insecurity that a lot of these Trumpsters really have. His base is built off of propaganda and fear amongst themselves and fear pushing to others because they were big, rowdy, and tough when it was driving through communities, right? Mm-hmm. Boldly with their flags and their music and just really creating that voter intimidation, or we're here, like they was going to occupy people's cities and people's communities. And it was like, all right, well, what's popping? Myself, regardless of it, if it took place, and it didn't, I personally said to my people, I don't know if you saw my little rant, a little 2-minute rant. I said, this ain't the time for us to go outside. Yep. If they decide to go outside and do their little tantrum, these little Trumpsters, let them be. Allow other pale folks who are celebrating this victory of Biden and Harris in a way as if a new godlike leader has stepped in. Let them handle the business. Allow them to be in these places to secure, our cities and secure our communities. I say we as Black people, we as brown people, we are in this together, and hopefully we can kind of really feel that. And I know, like my brothers and some of those my Latino brothers and sisters, I know we separated on that, but I know it's well, actually, in numbers we would be better together because we follow it to a lot of the same kind of oppression, a little bit different, but a lot of it's still similar.
Yeah.
If we decide to go outside and play heroes, as Black people have done again in this voting atmosphere by helping Biden and Harris get in, what is in it for us? And that has been my thing. Like, there's no point to go outside. There's no point for us to sit there and battle these Trumpsters because they're upset. Let them be upset. Let the people who have said to us, our lives matter, have their own white on white crime out there, as well as let law enforcement that has spent so much time protecting the properties because they felt those protesters in the summertime, those instigators, those rioters, those looters, all those bad people who are protesting against oppression and protesting to be liberated and freedom and for us to live and not have to be attacked or hunted down because of our color of our skin. Let them have the same duty to shoot the rubber bullets, the pepper spray, the batons and tear gas, whatever they have to do to hold back the forces of truly evil in America that's not looked upon as evil. It's looked upon as there are just some good citizens that are just upset that their president lost, which I think is crazy because you got to look at a lot of things that are in effect, right?
Okay.
Still, no matter what we say, he is out of here, but 70 million people voted for that guy to stay back in. You know what I mean? And I'm going to break down those numbers about what Black guys voted, what white women voted. We just know 70 million people said, you know what, he did a good enough job, no matter with the COVID chaos, no matter
or even
allegations.
If it wasn't necessarily he did a good enough job, we just think he would also do better than the other guy.
Yeah, so
there's some of them in there too.
Yeah. Mind you, the impeachment, all of the numerous things, mind you, the voting, the real voting fraud, right? The real voting fraud that got him in the presidency in the first place with the help of the Russians. We had 70 million people still believe, like, you know what, make America great again was the slogan and was the thought. And it's ironic that this shit happens the way it is. I will warn my people, my own people, our Black people, about the celebration, because as I sat back and I looked at it, it's just a reverse of what we had in 2008. Biden was at that particular time the VP. Now he's the president. And as Black people love to do, we love to celebrate we love the first. Yeah. So we had the first Black colored person. We had a Black man, first person of color in the presidency. Yeah. And now we have a woman, a first woman of color, which is a Black woman in VP. So we get the kudos for that. We did it first. But in the reality of us doing it first, we lose foresight on what the mission is. And I don't want Black people to be comfortable and celebrate a victory, because it's truly not a victory. Because again, they're still in control of the Senate and they're fighting to get more control of the House. And the reality is, if Biden doesn't have the Senate and he loses the House, anything that we really truly want to get done is going to be a rocky road.
Yeah, I mean, when I do appreciate the fact that what Kamala Harris represents to folks the same way Barack Obama did. So if somebody tells me, this inspires young ladies, young girls growing up to let them know that maybe that glass ceiling that they thought was a little bit lower is now a little bit higher, or you can be anything. I get that. And I get there's appreciation for it. And I put that it's got its place. But yeah, just because Biden and Harris are in and Trump's, got his notice, that doesn't mean that's the finish line. It doesn't mean that this is where you take your foot off the gas and this is where you go on autopilot, because that's the history that we have when we feel like our person gets in. Okay, Clinton's cool. He smoked weed. He plays saxophone. He's hanging out with Arsenio. Oh, we got the guy we want. Cool. All of a sudden you get hit with the mass incarceration bills and all the nonsense. Obama. Oh, man, that's another brother from Chicago. Oh, we got the first Black man in there. Oh, we cool. autopilot. Everybody else showing up aggressively, getting what they need, nothing by way of policy specifically for us to get Black folks out of the current situation into a better standing. Okay, Biden and Harris, first Black woman. Yeah. Oh, Joe, that's Obama's boy. Autopilot and all the stuff folks have been talking about, building, about, investing, about creating for our own future, all that, we can't just fall back by the wayside. And for the folks out there who are upset, this is my view on the people who are crying foul about Trump, feeling that he lost to some chicanery and some trickery. This lets you know where folks stand. If your thing is about, I care about democracy and I care about meritocracy, and I believe that the person should be in office who was voted for by the people, even using the Electoral College as that's the fair way, that's the system that we've devised. If you've got all this energy for this election, but you didn't have any energy for Bush and those hanging chads in Florida,
man,
you had no energy for that. Oh, okay. We was cool on that one. We have nothing to say about that one. You didn't have any energy for the concept of Trump and the alleged collusion with Russia, and all, you have no energy. You had no commentary.
None.
Okay, but now all of a sudden you want to count every vote, count every ballot. We need to make sure this is fair. Make sure. Okay, that means you don't care about democracy or meritocracy. You just care about who's the winner. So you're completely.
Or do they just care it's a white face in the right place so they can continue this idea of privilege, even though that white face necessarily didn't benefit those on the ground, because classism is a motherfucker.
Well, so, I mean,
privilege is one hell of a drug.
You care about who wins as opposed to the system and structure of fairness and democracy.
Yeah,
like if you're crying foul now, but you had no words for Bush, no words for Trump the first time around, and now this is the only time that you feel like the system is rigged and the Democrats are okay. Then we are
crazy, right?
We know who you are, so we can just go ahead.
Is it? Listen, fam, let's really go back in time 4 years ago when folks was like, "Yo, the Russians was involved." Like they was like, "Y'all just poor losers. We just won and deal with it," and everything was all good in Trump land. And now the Mr. Mango, the orange agent, he's come out sobering, and he did this like months before the actual end result, right? He was already setting it up and talking about, well, if I lose, you know why. And the folks are just so blindly dumb with this cult kind of following that he has that they just don't even realize that they're being all had, and they just buy into the bullshit. It to the point where they have a 1-800 voter fraud like line, and then it's like, wow, you're talking about fraud, but from Mr. Fraud, from the fraudulent one himself.
Well, that's why. That's why I go back to Bush, because everybody with the short memory. Everything came down to Florida, the state that Bush's brother was governor of. And then all of a sudden, all these votes, we're not going to count them because the hole wasn't completely punched a specific way. And they called them those hanging chads because they had that tiny little piece of paper that was still partially attached to the ballot. So we're going to throw out all those votes.
Wow.
And this is when Jeb Bush was president, was a governor of Florida. and we just let that one go.
Let that slide.
There was supposed to be a recount that I don't think anybody ever heard of.
Well, because 9/11 happened after that.
And we just
9/11 happened after that.
But I'm saying, so when we talk about voters, so if you got that energy for making sure it's just, making sure it's fair, Obama wasn't an issue because it was such a landslide. There was no point, and you couldn't even make the argument that there was anything there. Like, I mean, astronomical numbers. He mopped the floor with that election. Now, notice how this one took 3-4 days. Obama's was wrapped that night.
Yeah.
Like Obama's was wrapped by like 10 p.m.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what?
It was such a blowout.
And it goes to show you that Trump should have hollered at Putin and, sent that check, or just call and say, hey, I'm going to do this. He didn't check in. So, the Russians were like kind of like,
And his wife's leaving him.
That's what
Yeah,
I
that is his
hear.
wife's about. She's like, free. I'm finally.
That's what I hear. Like
Finally.
she got to go ahead and get her television show, get her book.
The book deal is a best time is a New York Times bestseller day one.
Easy,
Day one.
bro.
My life with Mr. Orange, my life with Mr. Fanta. Oh yeah,
My life with the Mango Man. Right?
My life with Sunny D.
Yeah. My life with Donnie Don, the pussy grabber, but never grabbed my pussy. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like the whole thing to me, it speaks to the level of ignorance, right? And I think that it also speaks to the insecurity of a lot of Americans to allow a new regime. And a new regime is other people besides white people having control, right? And I think that white folks, a lot of them don't understand how to deal with that. Don't know what to do with it. Where on the other hand, I feel like this is one set of racist ways kind of bringing back the old set of racist ways. And the reason why I say it's the old way of doing things from our end, not saying in historically, but in our end, was like having racist Democrats, and they'd keep telling us, yeah, we're doing stuff for you, just hold it up. Compared to having what was the nuance for at least this generation, which was really the old way of doing things, with Trump basically the rhetoric. And if he's never really said too many things besides the shithole countries that are Africa and Haiti and other things that he did not speak on, and sometimes his complicitness and his silence spoke volumes, right? His rhetoric incited individuals with their racism. So it put everything to the four corners of us seeing this shit is really screwed up. Now what we have is that, okay, the panderers, the ones that will make you feel like, damn, you're questioning it, like, are they really racist? But that's kind of like the way they like to have it. The way they like to have it is us believing that all things are well, all things are good. You don't have anything to worry about. We got it all in hand. And that's far from the truth. That's why a lot of folks were okay with what Trump was doing, because at least we know the boogeyman for who the boogeyman is, not the person hiding in the closet, where here we are once again back to what we're used to. The politics of the Democrats are not for black people. Never been for black people. As many black people want to sit there and argue the simple fact about how great Obama is, I've always said, name me one thing that Obama's done for black people as a collective, not intersected with any other group, no other group, just black people. And I think that you'll be hard pressed to find it. Now, has he done something that affected and helped black people? Yes, but it was all circulated in one group. And that to me does not speak to what a black president should have done. But I can't even be mad at him, because guess what? We didn't have a black agenda, or the black agenda that was served or delivered wasn't delivered in the sense of urgency that became this election, where more Negroes was pushing a black agenda for this white establishment per se.
Yeah, everything that was pushed when Barack was president was, it'd be nice if, was the mentality when it came for black people. It'd be nice if you could address this.
You should maybe think
it'd be cool if you could if you get the time, if you find it free in your schedule, if you can find it in your heart. Whereas now Biden knows that there's going to be, well, the talk is that there's going to be pressure. It's going to be interesting to see what that lean looks like.
Pressure
on
from
him. No, I'm saying from us. Like I said, black people. I said it's going to be interesting to see if they're. What I mean by pressure is that there's actually talk for something. Barack got to get into office with zero "what you gonna do for us" conversation.
It was happy-go-lucky.
I said there was none.
Yeah,
and even with Trump, it was none of us expected him to do anything for us. So there was still no pressure.
Well, the pastors could say that they was running a deal, and Kanye can say they was probably trying to run a deal.
I'm talking about the real folks.
Yeah, well, that's what I say about when you say that. When I say black folks, I am afraid, again, going back to the Obama administration, that you have the black elitist, right? You know, you have Van Jones, who will be a part of that collective that will be crying, but one minute he was talking about how Trump has done so much. I mean, it's like it's vice versa. Like, wait a minute, you talked about Trump was doing something for us, and then now you're crying about him. I don't know, whatever. It's political kind of sword play that they usually do. But what I get in fear of, and most of the times, this is kind of what it is. Even when the rappers were doing all of their politicking and pandering and doing whatever they did, I said, okay, though they have some great points, I really didn't look at them being authentic, whether it's Ice Cube, 50 Cent, a Lil Wayne, or Kanye, because they don't truly resonate with the struggle that has become us. A lot of these people have become or been millionaires a lot longer than they were ever oppressed if they were ever broke, right?
All those guys you just, well, with the exception of 50, all those guys have been
rich
rich longer than they were poor.
Yes.
And 50's about 50-50.
And he's getting close to that, right? You know what I mean? So we can argue that, but at the same particular time, I always say, well, how can the oppressed, how can the rich help the oppressed, when a lot of times when I'm looking at the scale of some of the people that need to be at the table, if these rich Negroes don't have a portfolio of saying, well, here's why I'm going to be here, because with my own money, with my own investment, with my own resource and access, I've done this. And then I can be like, oh, you know what? I can celebrate that. But don't come here acting as if you're in the same freaking, class as me, like you deal with it the same way I do. You don't. You live in the burbs. You live in the luxury spots. You got folks who would turn their face and their nose at you at one particular time, know that you are somebody that they can't really just shun off. You really don't know the struggles that we go through. So I feel like when we're creating that, I'm not saying they don't need to be involved, but I'm saying they cannot be the faces, and they cannot be the ones that are really elevating, even though I'm not saying that their struggles hinder their thought process of what we do need. But I kind of gets difficult for me to really look at folks if you've already had the access, right? Like with Tyler Perry, you could see the innovation and you could see kind of the grit, the grind. Like I would love to have that guy like, all right, you're at the table because
if there was a star that was going to go, you really want to talk that pull yourself by your bootstrap talk.
Yes.
Yeah, that's somebody
really got a guy that's really like done it his kind of way. And I think that all these other factions, it's almost like a slap in the face, and it speaks to the volumes of how clearly we're not ready, because I think that we're too busy truly celebrating, which I'm not saying it is not a moment to get clarity, but we're trading one slave master for the next slave master. And if you don't have that mentality to think like that, then nigga, we talking a different language, because what we're going to do is get complacent and get so excited about Miss Harris and forget Miss Harris used to be a strong authority figure in the law system, and the social justice push that a lot of us have done is connected with some of the stuff that she put into place. Now, she might be a component of doing some of the things that she put in place before, and some folks will say, well, she was in the system, but that's the problem. We expect people of color, people that look like us or have our same ingenuity, who we think have our best interests. We expect them to go into these places to do things that are going to be for our best interests as a collective, not to keep on playing systematic games.
Yeah. So the big thing about the Harris piece is that Harris was involved in the 90s with policies she didn't come up with, but that she executed at an incredibly high level. So a lot of the folks that she put away, she didn't make the law, she didn't make the policy, she didn't do the sentencing. Her job was to round them up and create a strong enough case to lock them up. So if you want to say, okay, I look at her because she's efficient, she's an executor, she gets the job done. Okay, that's cool, but it's going to be how much input. First off, does she have a different opinion? Does she really want change? And if she does, how much input will she have in actually moving the needle? Because if Sleepy Joe is still on that, like, I know what I said to get in here, but my belief system is that the criminal justice system is fine just the way it is. She's going to have to fall in line. So she was going to have to execute. She's going to have to run the plays that he calls. So as much as we want to sit there and say, okay, she's there and she's going to do this and do that, I think something that's very important to remember is the difference between representation and tokenism.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times we look at stuff where we say, oh, this is representation. Oh, this is, representation is important. We need to be properly represented in these rooms. Well, if these people are not in alignment with your views, and they're not in alignment with your ideas, and they're not in alignment with your goals. Like, you could just be, we need to get a black person in the room. Okay, but if they're just a black person in the room, that's tokenism.
Facts.
Because what they're doing, what they're like, if you watch those TV shows, there's always that one black friend, but you never see their family. Like, he's always at everybody else's family. She's always at everybody else's family. They're just the black friend, but they've got no storyline that fits their lifestyle. Like, that's just tokenism. That's not representation. And so it's important that we don't get caught up in thinking that somebody who looks like us is for us, that they share our goals and they share our vision.
Facts.
That is not just somebody who, I got an auntie that looked like her, so she must be like my auntie. Nope.
Stop doing it, Negroes, please.
She is very efficient at what she puts her mind to, Kamala Harris, and I give her all the respect in the world for that. She gets a task in front of her, she gets it done. Like I said, she's just got to back the plays that he calls, so it's going to be important to see what the playbook looks like.
The playbook looks like this to me. If black people don't see the opportunity right now, while all things are leaning and headed our way, they wore the Black Lives Matter shirts. They were forced to recognize systemic racism as a real thing, a huge thing that has affected us structurally, has affected us mentally, that is now a thing. It took them a long time to do that with white supremacy, but systemic racism is like, oh, dang, we admit that. If we sit back, just blend in, let a few black elitists get some cabinet positions, clap and praise that, continue to say she's a Howard girl, she's an AKA, Dementia Joe, he meant no harm for the 94 crime bill, though Niggles authored it, Niggles signed off on it.
Yeah, I heard his speeches. He was very intentional.
Yeah, he's very intentional.
He's very intentional.
If we do this particular Biden's my president and all this other BS, and I love the emotion of Negroes, but I swear to God I hate it at the same time because we get so emotionally wrapped up and we can't look objectively to anything. It's like, okay, she's my VP because my VP is black, and that's why I said it's the same thing from 2008 to now. Symbolism at its finest, symbolic gestures of progress. They knew the play. He had Obama. Come on, Obama used Biden for the same reason that Biden is using Harris. Obama's like, I can't go ahead and get me another Negro
I need the old white man.
I need the old white man that can touch with the base, that will formulate right into some results in the polls. What he looked at is like, I need a young, hip, in a way that she may not be here because her dance moves is kind of whack, but in a way that she's young enough to connect. She has a strong base because remember, she's an AKA, and you already know that fraternity sorority power is mega in nationwide in the United States.
She's a woman.
And
she's a woman coming off
this
Me Too
stuff.
She's
a woman of color coming off from the Me Too's, coming off from women need to have power, and it was the best move to pick her outside of any other woman that everyone thought that he was going to pick. It was like out of left field and was like, oh, that's kind of daring. And he rolled the dice and it worked. It's the same exact play book from Obama. But now what we have to do as black people, organize, mobilize, and set an agenda. And it does not mean that we have to love each other. And it does not mean we're going to get everything. But when I hear them talk about LGBTQ, as we talked about on our last show, and when we talk about the immigrants, that these are going to be the first two agendas aside to the coronavirus, dealing with that, it makes me very skeptic on what's going to be the future and how much we're going to be put to the back.
Okay, so here's the problem that I worry about going along with that, where it'll involve us when it pertains to using us in conjunction with the coronavirus, because they're talking about really trying to push and get on top of this vaccine. And the argument will be that black people have such skyrocketed numbers when it pertains to COVID that I wouldn't be surprised one bit if there's a major push to start going into predominantly black areas with these vaccines in a hurry up and start getting us shot up with them as a move to save black people. I'm trying to look out. Y'all are having issues with the COVID, so we're going to go where you live first. And we're going to hit your areas to make sure that, because I'm looking out for black people, I'm looking out for my African-American brothers and sisters. And you're going to try to start shooting us up with this mess and using that as, well, what did you do for black people? I singularly went after and made a strong force and a strong movement to get black people safe from this COVID-19.
Brother.
I would not be surprised one bit if that's the platform. So, well, what did you do for black people? I specifically cared about black health. So I specifically made sure that these vaccines were accessible and available and right there ready in heavily populated black communities. And that's my first move.
Brother, stop talking to brother. Stop saying, brother, if you not right on the nail with that, dog, like, because you Negroes once again have played right into the trap. I am not going to say that COVID-19 ain't real because it was a man-made virus. They created it. Of course it's real. Yeah. Not going to sit there and say that people haven't died. They have, just as well as they've died from other diseases, other viruses that we've had. Yeah. But they have sensationalized it in such a way. They formulated it in such a way that now we're on this fourth stage of it or whatever the hell. I don't even know what stage we're on because we've had
we moonwalked. So we went back a stage.
Okay, well, here's what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
We've had this since March, and we're now going into the next loop of this where December is where some folks said, okay, this is when some folks were like, I started getting sick, right? Got flu season. Yeah. You know, you got all this other stuff going on. So now we're coming back from a year cycle coming to. Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, we've had all these mandates of social distancing. We've had all this mandate of mask. We've had all this, let's keep some food outside, the summertime and all this. And now all of a sudden, magically, we've got an uprise, an uptake. Like, how did that happen? Because what you said is, well, if we put the mask and if we go ahead and social distance, that we will be out in the clear. And what was happening was, we were doing that and the numbers decreased and things were getting back and we were able to open up. And then all of a sudden, pre-election, or during as the election was going, we're spiked up 1,000 this. Yeah. And the numbers became more increasingly higher in the times where now we have masks and we have the social distance mandating than it was when we didn't have any of these things. So it's like, what the hell gives?
Well, there's the numbers that go along with this is when
inflated numbers. Let's make it clear.
Well, yeah, but let's just say the argument for. So I'm not even saying this is fact. I'm just saying like the argument for. The numbers were starting to flatten across the nation pre-protest. So originally when there was everybody was staying home, and though every state didn't close, most of them did, and even the states that weren't fully regulated to close, they did have things where they slowed stuff down. Then we get the protests of the summer. So numbers started to go back up in certain areas. And then you had states that were like, like California, like I'm a hold off because we had so many protests here. And so our numbers were high. Protests start to subside. So the numbers start to go down. Then the problem came when it pertained to the election. So you had a brand new wave of people who left. So these are all the people who were anti-Trump, anti-Biden. I hate vaccines. I hate police. I hate whatever. This whole new wave of people coming out. And then they're trying to impose their will on other folks. So you had all these thousands and thousands of people. I mean, just Trump parades mainly. And then people who were going to battle them or to confront them across the nation. So you had all these thousands of people. And then it wasn't just people who were out. It were people who were out who were anti-masks. Mm. So you had a high group of folks who were Trump supporters, who were conservatives, who have been anti-mask. This is all a sham. This is all a facade. COVID isn't real because they believed number 45. So you now had, at least during the protests in the summer, you had a lot of masks on when people were coming out protesting police brutality and things. These millions of people who've been in the streets on this side have not been. So there was a huge number that spiked up leading up to the election. So if you're making an argument, okay, well, we need to get vaccine. No, you just realize that let's forget just stay it behind at home. Put the mask on. Just like it's not brain science for some of these numbers. Now, they have been pushing. I don't believe it's coincidence that in the same week your election is decided that all of a sudden Pfizer with the number one pharmaceutical companies on the planet, all of a sudden is front runner to having a vaccine ready. I don't think that just magically happened 48 hours after they announced who the new president is.
Boy.
So, I mean, they've been sitting on that. And the issue that people have, let's just say if you're on the fence or not sure about vaccines, we've talked about a little bit when it pertains to etymology and ethnicity, but we have a flu shots that go around every year. And the flu shot is roughly 40-something% successful. So about half the people who get a flu shot don't end up sick. Now that's technology, that's research, that's constant data and stats that date back. We've been doing flu shots for almost a century. And you're looking at about a 45% success rate.
And people still getting the flu, but go ahead.
But so now with that, so now you're going to come up with a vaccine in 90 days, 180 days. Let's just give you the whole year. You started last year at this time because that's why it's COVID-19. This is about the same time it showed up last year. You've been on it since October of 2019. And you think that you have a vaccine put together that's going to have a success rate better than the flu? Probably not. And you don't have enough information to say what's going to be the side effects and the potential problems and complications of a virus that has a 99% success rate. So the percentage of people who will most likely be adversely affected by the vaccine will probably be greater than the number of people affected by the virus. So like really working up on the math, the number of people who will die or have severe issues to COVID-19, that number will most likely be less than the number of people who are sick, complications, organ problems with side effects to the vaccine.
And that's what I don't think that they really specify on, right? There's going to be side effects. And who was going to take the vaccine first?
Like I said, that will be what did I do for black people?
And you just said what you said about Biden. And I think that is so important to clear that statement and understand that will be probably the first thing that he's going to do, because it all was a setup from the beginning. When you start hearing about the numbers, and of course, black people will be the ones that are affected the most because we're affected in everything the most. Yep. But we don't want to be the first ones. I could say, or for a collective, we don't want to be the first ones that take the vaccination. You go try that on some other guinea pig. Now, why it got to be us? You know what I mean?
That's the problem. Like we talked about before, so many of us were not involved in the trials and the development that it doesn't even matter if we don't go first, because you won't know until you get to us. If we're not involved in the trials and we're not involved in the development, so they don't know what will happen to us as a group, then we can go ninth. We can let everybody go ahead of us. And then when we take it, we still get hit. Screwed. And then that's when you find out how it affects us.
Wow. And I think that's the scariest part. No, that's the scariest part about it all. And I think that for me, again, you celebrate one thing to be miserable about the other thing. And that is the simple fact that we still clearly have a system that has shown itself to be exactly what a lot of us felt it was, racist in all ways. And now we have a killer disease, a killer virus that has shown its path of destruction. And the only result to allegedly saving us all is vaccinations. And then looking at the statistics and looking at us being, the number one hit set of folks, aside to the older people, us having to be put in that position to make a decision, and them making sure that a lot of it will be almost, well, if you're not going to get this vaccination, you can't work here. You can't bring your schools. You can't bring your kids back to school. And this is going to really be a
can't
test.
Go to school, can't fly, can't do.
That's the thing that I worry the most about is the fly component, right? Yeah. If when because it's one thing to say masks, it's another thing to have us have to go through all these checks and balances, take our shoes off and all that. Yeah. But it's another thing to now them saying you have to have proof of vaccination from COVID. And that becomes an issue. That becomes a bit greater issue to me, because folks foolishly were putting out, and this is why the ignorance of people just believing everything they hear besides without researching it becomes a wave of ignorance without folks really looking at what was happening. Folks are saying, well, New York has already mandated it. You can't mandate nothing. You can't mandate it. You can't. But what you can do, you can just say, well, in order to work here and create standards, you have to have A, B, and C. And once you create a standards, you're forced to make a decision. The policy.
People will sit there and say, you can't run by and stick a needle in my arm. No, you can't. But the same way you can't put your kid in public school without vaccinations, you can do it.
Hello.
The same way people are like, you can't force me to wear a mask. I want it because they want to come in your restaurant. Yeah. You're right. I can't make you wear a mask.
But you won't be in this restaurant.
But you can't be served or enter here without one. So you have a decision. I'm not forcing you down, putting a needle in your arm.
And that's what the beautiful thing is. But I think it's also a failure in leadership, and it's a failure in tactics that just kind of played us. And if folks are not paying attention and going deeper into the outlook of all of this, how the hell do we go from saying these masks will protect us and a majority of us are wearing it? I know you said about the, protests and different things of that nature, but you know what, bro? And some of the white folks moving around and stuff like that.
Trump rallies, there wasn't no masks.
Yeah, but a lot of folks, I don't believe that was a climb, because they were doing that even before the mandate, right? You know what I'm saying? They were doing that before even the mandate, because the mandate happened later. There was like, okay, you know what? We messed up on the gloves. Now we have to have everybody have masks. Now we're going to open it up this way. Now we're going to open up that way. And everyone's walking around with masks at stores and restaurants and things of that nature. And here we are again. Economically, they're going to create this vaccine as the economic lifesaver. And for those folks who are in business that own gyms, fooderies, and things of that nature, like them taking this vaccination could cost them either their career or their livelihood, or them opening up their business. And that to me is a hard pill to swallow. And I don't believe it's right.
No. And so one thing, teaching it like with us as a people, where if you're worried about, well, I'm just trying to be safe, or I want to make sure my babies are safe, or my things. Now, this is really specifically towards melanated people. So if you don't identify with being black, that's really irrelevant. So I know some people are like, well, black people, I'm not black. Okay, well, melanated folks, this is who it applies to. Whatever term you want to call yourself, or whatever nation that your family lineage comes from. A huge component into you getting, or the severity of your complication with COVID or any other disease, is your level of vitamin D. And melanated people, especially in the United States, are pretty much almost all of us are vitamin D deficient. And the reason being is that vitamin D is what we get through the sun. Well, the more melanin that's in your skin, the harder it is for the vitamin D to penetrate through sunlight. It takes longer. We come from an area where we're in the sun all the time, so it's kind of regulated through our melanin. But here, we're not out as much as we used to be. Most of us spend the bulk of our time indoors. When you take the hours that you're sleeping, you take your job, and you take your activities, we don't really spend much time in the sun. And so your most folks, I think it's almost 80% of black people in the United States of America are vitamin D deficient. And so vitamin D directly affects your immune system, how your organs work, how your body operates. And there's a whole lot of data information showing a link between severity in COVID and vitamin D deficiency. And so we're talking about, why do black people get hit in certain areas? Because most of us are vitamin D deficient. And so when we get a virus like this, we have adverse reactions. So if you're like, what do I need to do to get better? Vitamin D. So you can either get it in supplement form, or you can get it by spending way more time outside. That's why a lot of people are saying get outside and in the sun, and that helps. But if the more melanated you are, you can get your vitamin D checked, get your levels checked. And if you're low, you can get supplements to get those numbers up. And that is a huge jump and a defense to things like COVID and stuff, as opposed to a vaccine. Just saying.
Brother, this is such a heavy topic. And again, this is not to shed negative light for those who have lost folks in the COVID-19 struggle, but also to give a perspective of where we're at, our ideas, our opinions. And my opinion is, I just know the beast and the demon and the enemy that we deal with, and how they surface, and the propaganda, the inflated numbers, sensationalizing certain things, and even with our governor kind of like almost blaming us for not doing what we're supposed to be doing. But this is what you said for us to do. So how are we to blame in this spike? Okay, now we're gathering with people. Oh, all right. I mean, what else are you going to say? Like we said before we got on air, just say this. We don't know what the hell is going on. You know what I'm saying? We thought the mask was going to be, because we saw when we started to have folks wearing masks that it just didn't happen. Or guess what? All y'all motherfuckers is going to get this shit. Spend 14 days. Hopefully it don't kill you and you'll be okay. But this reality that we're moving around and we're being in fear of having COVID, they've never done this with AIDS. You know what I'm saying? They never cared about sexually transmitted diseases in this form, shape, or fashion. They never cared about cancer in this way. They still are having us buy cigarettes if they're giving us the choice. Well, they got cancer, but, there's not industries that are being shut down. Yeah. Even though there's evidence that says, well, this is going to kill
alcohol
you.
And cigarettes on an all-time high.
I'm just saying. And then to just round it all off, you're not giving us any support. We had one bailout, and you had us be able to not pay rent for maybe a few months or something like that. And guess what? For those people who didn't pay rent for 3 to 4 months, that nice little bill was on your door. Like, all right, we'll pay her quick. You got about 15 days to figure this out. Yeah. Like, what kind of help are we getting? You say that we're all in this together. I've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of work that we've been supporting our young people, supporting people in the community to whatever a given standard that we could kind of give for people with the less that we have, to give them a lot more. The possibilities would be endless if the government would step in a way that a lot of people have stepped in, giving free food, supporting young people mentally, supporting older people mentally, like really honing in on a togetherness and a collective while the government continues to try to figure out if they want to give us an extra $1,200. Like, there has been no support at all. And so what do you expect people to do? People are losing their minds. People are losing their businesses. I mean, we can't all be owners of McDonald's with drive-thrus and Taco Bells with drive-thrus and have Amazon that with deliveries and Walmarts that are considered essential. The fact that I hear some of these horror stories that there's not even hazard pay for people that work in grocery stores, right? People that are all day essential workers, even in nursing homes, they're not getting hazard pay, speaks to the volume of ignorance and neglect that this whole nation has for the people. So don't tell me that we're not doing the right thing. No. You're not doing the right thing by protecting us and serving us in a way that lets us feel more secure, that we don't have to risk our lives, putting other people's lives in danger, because we could sit back and say, you know what, I don't have to worry about rent and I don't have to pay it back because it's looking care of. Yeah, I don't have to worry about some of that. Like, these things aren't happening.
If you were truly saying, okay, my issue is health and safety. Like, my real concern is that the American people are healthy and that we can wipe out COVID. Okay, everybody stay off the streets with the exception of the essential workers. And we are going to freeze all these bills that you've got and give you a pass on them.
Yes, and then, freeze and pass. Not freeze and wait for you when you get your money. No, freeze and pass.
And then give you money to still maintain with the things that you need to do, like buying groceries or if you need to get medication, whatever. And then people would be more inclined to stay home. Like, the issue is you want me to stay home broke and not give me an opportunity to make money. Or what was it, 40-something% of small businesses closed this year? And now, granted, most small businesses in America have one employee, at the most two. So these are a lot of mom and pop, private owned businesses. It's just one person or it's two people,
but they're still essential.
What else I'm saying, and this is their livelihood. This business that they do is what they've got, and they were forced to shut down. And so many of them across the nation are just gone under because a lot of businesses were in the red. A lot of businesses take several years to take off to make money. So if you were already in the red, getting your restaurant started, getting your bookstore, your diner, your coffee shop, whatever services you provide, you're still just getting ahead of the building that you're leasing and all the equipment that you rented. You're just trying to, and now all of a sudden you get the shutdown, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. That's a wrap. And you're told you don't even know when you can come back. You know, I know businesses that closed in March who were told, I'll see you in March. They closed in March of 2020 and told you can open up again in March of 21.
Let me also add this. In the righteous uprising, all the buildings and all the places that were looted, all the places that were burnt down, all the places that were broken into, some of those businesses haven't even come back. Mm. And we're not even talking about the COVID effect. We're talking about the protest effect, right? Or again, you know, the situations that, again, I know folks hate me saying it, but the righteous uprising, there were casualties and those were properties. And some of those properties to this day have not yet come back. And to be honest with you, why? That might have been the best bailout, you know, because, you know, what can you really do? But in the same sense, as we go round and round with this situation, this COVID-19 story with this election, it speaks to the idea that just giving us a vaccination will solve the problems of the nation. And that's totally far from the truth.
Not true. We have so many things that go on in the sense of, like I said, I'm a firm believer in start where you are with what you've got. And so, you know, we got to worry about a government that may be trying to force our hand with this needle or taking this pill or whatever. But we still have all the normal stuff going on. I mean, we have kids with learning disabilities who don't have access to the tutors or the special teachers that they had before. Your kid's got a severe learning disability. Zoom is probably very difficult for you right now, brother, as the parent who's not trained to teach this way.
Do you know how many kids we losing with Zoom right now?
I'm saying, like, yes, because I'm teaching classes via Zoom. I see how hard it is. You got to find all kind of hat tricks to keep them engaged.
Listen, I just don't really understand what we are going to really understand that these problems that we have to fix are multi-layered. And this right here is not helping. For the kids who can, like for some kids who have a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of, self-resilience, self-motivation. This is cake work. Like, you're going to have kids who should have probably never got.
Like, Mommy, I don't ever want to go back to school. I want to be able to just sit in my computer and just do my work.
Like, they're going to be in Princeton. The GPAs that they're going to pull off because it's like, this is what I needed. Because all that stimuli was a distraction where that stimuli was a motivation for these kids, right? Like, some of these kids home are not sufficient enough to deal with this kind of impact for them to be daily at the crib. Like those 4, 5, 8 hours gone was probably the best, not only for the fact they have some food access, they have some access with good motivation and other other folks that can be stimulated, peers that could act like siblings compared to the house of ruins that they have to go back to. Now they're in that mess 24 hours. And this also shows the lack there of care and precision and readiness our parents have. You can blame the teachers all y'all want, and I'm sure the teachers and the
teachers are catching hell.
They have plenty to blame, but it also is a one-sided street because we've had so many different people always talk about, I can't stand the school. I want to have my child be with me, and I'm gonna teach my kid with like they ain't teaching our kids right anyway. Okay, well, guess what? Now it's the opportunity for us to do it our own, and we're failing miserably.
Yeah, and I think that people need to understand, too, is that the way that people are wired to learn, some people can just sit in and open your book to chapter 32 and read chapter 3. And they can sit there and do it, and they don't have an issue. Like their reading and retention is how they learn. But we have percentages of people who learn through group interaction, through dealing with people. We have folks who learn by hands-on, by actually touching and doing. So there's a whole lot of kids who are now being just pushed to the side, and it's only the group that learns one way is being addressed. So you've got a bunch of them who are like, they're used to doing the group projects and they're interacting with the students next to them, and that energy they get with the other students is what drives them to pay attention and get work done in school. Some people feed off that energy. Well, they're now excluded. The group that you're like, okay, build this, we're going to do that, we move with your hands, turn your desk around and actually move and be hands-on, come up and write this on the board, those people are now been X'd out. So it's really just the read and retention.
You know what I mean? Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just the read and retention ones who are thriving, who are like, okay, y'all just shut up and let me just tell me what to do, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Those ones, like I said, will be great coming out of this.
Like open book, find the answers. Oh, it's just you know what I mean? Like, I got
there's those students who've always been like, man, I just wish everybody would shut up and leave me alone. Like, I don't want to talk to everybody. I don't want to be in group projects. I just want to tell me what I need to do and let me do it.
Yep.
So those ones, like I said, they loving this. But like you said, we have a lot of stuff that's going on that we have to address.
Say something
and
too.
Kids with education, our community violence is still happening.
Brother, I just, before we level out, because there's so much stuff to pack into an hour conversation, we might go a little overtime, just a little bit. But I have to speak upon the recent violence, the continued violence, and the trend of rappers committing to a lifestyle and ending their own lives because of whatever energy they put out there, or just wherever they're at in their life, in their world, that another rapper by the name of King Von, 26-year-old, murdered. And I'm not going to speak upon the brother and his history, because from the streets, they say he was a very, very young bad man, and not in a bad man in a good way, but in a tragic a moment of his death. He was killed in an altercation where there was actually a fist fight. Guns came out. Unfortunately, himself and two other brothers were the victim of another senseless gun violence that could have been prevented. I'm not going to, again, speak upon who he was, but I'm going to speak upon what this is. And what this is craziness. What this is madness. What this is unfortunate in so many different ways, where young men and young women are advancing themselves in this idea that death is more important, reputation is more important than living and being triumphant in a moment where you have now got the lotto ticket to get your people. And he was doing so much for his people in his neighborhood to get into a higher place, to level, to look at the scars and look at everything that you had to do to get to this place to where you can be an inspiration for others. His life cut short, 26 years old, a Chicago rapper by the name of King Von. It just frustrates me, because in this 2020, you've seen more rap artists from higher level to low level for just starting up dying. And I remember going back to 96 with Tupac, and I remember going back to 97 with Biggie. And those murders and those deaths that happened, how we took that in our era, like that Tupac shit hurt. Not only that Tupac was a person I actually knew, but I was a super fan of Pac. And when he died, it was like, whoa. But the industry felt that same thing. It was like, whoa, we got to do better. And then turn around, whoop, Biggie Smalls dies. So we know the elevation of Tupac. And many say that the Tupac death had something to do with the Biggie death and the vice versa. But the reality is, when those two iconic figures died in 96 and 97, hip hop had to look at themselves and ask a serious question. Is it worth it? And a time hip hop really started to grow up, where folks were looking at, we're losing a lot of money by beefing, by allowing murder and death, especially to some of our icons, to be a part of the resume, be a part of like the build. The solution was, let's just have our things and have our moments, but it doesn't have to enter in death. Unfortunately, what we have in this new kind of hip hop, death pays the bills. Death continues to be in the center of hip hop, not only the music, but almost in a sense that the street level rap has kind of contradicted what hip hop was supposed to be for, about unity, about building, about getting out the hood, not being stuck with the hood mentality or continue to live these hood atrocities and these hood ideas. So now that death has become a center of the music, it's almost celebrated with the bodies that you get, that you're chasing down the op. So no longer are we sitting here when these artists die and really pausing and thinking and say, we can't have another artist dead. Guess what? We're killing more artists, whether it's Pop Smoke, whether it's the young brother Briss, and now the young brother King Von, the young brother FBG Duck. You have these young artists not even getting to reach the past 30 years old, just dying at a young early age, and us as in a hip hop community not looking at it and not speaking and saying enough is enough. And this is not only violence with the rap game, but this is violence overall, because what it does is it spills into other confines and other communities. And I'm just saying, brothers, if y'all care about leaving a legacy, don't leave a legacy in death, leave a legacy in life. We cannot continue to celebrate and glorify these heinous acts because, brother, this ain't good for business. This ain't good for us moving forward.
Yeah, all these things that are going on that we're trying to address, that we've got so many fronts that we have to defend, and we need all hands on deck, and we can't keep losing young brothers and sisters to gun violence and domestic violence and even diseases and things like just poor nutrition and things like poor not taking care of ourselves. Like, we have to become educated in the sense of what we need to how to compete and deal with the things that are happening, take care of ourselves, that we're in position to handle the things that when they come, and then look at how we treat each other and say that if we're going to build, if we're going to grow, if we're going to get through these things, that we have to start looking at each other as teammates and quit seeing an enemy in the eyes of everybody who looks at it like us. All these things that we need to address, that we need to deal with, and definitely something that we need to say something about. Jermaine Morris here with the one and only Mr. Barry Accius. Where can folks find you online for more riveting conversation like this?
Everything Barry Accius, Twitter, Facebook, IG is going crazy right now. Also, make sure you guys add Seriously Delicious Eats. That's my new endeavor, Seriously Delicious Eats, IG and Facebook, and of course, Black Blueprints with a Z.com.
I'm Jermaine Morris on Facebook. Every other social media platform is at J Morris CEO. This has been Say Something with Jermaine Morris and Barry Accius, the Say Something podcast.
Look at Jermaine. You cut your hair, brother. I need the world to see you, brother. Like, you're back to being you.
Yeah, I gotta, I was out here.
I mean, you ain't got nowhere to go, but I mean, you're back to being you.
Man, I was looking like a roadie for Lenny Kravitz. I had to clean it up. Nothing else. I got to see myself every day.
I don't know, being a roadie for Lenny Kravitz, man, back in the day, it was probably
I was looking
a situation.
As I said, I'm just saying, I had to tighten it up a little bit. I got to look like I care sometimes.
No doubt.
And for everybody else, until next show,
Yes, sir.
We will holler at you later.
Sure.